Hello, my friends. Paul here, and it feels really good to be back making videos. Today, I would like to talk about something that I refer to as the pull of the limbic system. What do I mean by that? Well, anytime that you want, let's just say that you're focused on something, doesn't matter what it is. Let's say that you're focused on going to the beach with your family or friends, and you really just want to have a good time. And then all of a sudden somebody looks at you a certain way, or you hear a particular song, or somebody says something to you and you really don't like their tone, and all of a sudden you realize that your mood really changes. And it doesn't change just a teeny tiny bit. It's like it's not almost, it is an overreaction. It's like, wow, why did that trigger such a response? Certainly you can say, oh, it's just my nervous system, which includes the brain. It's just being very sensitive. But what is often happening, or let's just say what's often a factor in this, is that our brain really does think that what is familiar is safe. And so what is often familiar, it's those old neural pathways, those kind of old ways of being. And we all have this thing called the default network. And of course, this is really kind of formed throughout our lives, but the foundational piece of it is really created during the first 6 to 8 years of our life. And then that foundation, that default network, is what our brain goes to. This is what it goes to in a split second. So let me give you an example of the default network at play. So when we were born, we didn't know how to turn a knob. Didn't know. So we had to learn either through trial and error, or one of our caretakers kind of just walked us through the whole process. Like, okay, you grab the knob like this. You make sure it's unlocked, and once it's unlocked, you grab the handle and you push down on it in a clockwise fashion, and then you pull on the knob. Right? And so our brain, at a very young age, our brain's like, okay, this is how you open a doorknob. So it also generalizes. The more doorknobs that you opened as a child, the more your brain becomes more familiar on what to do. It creates new additional pathways. And then as you keep turning that doorknob over and over again, the default network gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So now the default network is not limited to doorknobs. It's limited to everything. How you see color, how you hear sound, what meanings and associations we attach to things, whether it's a person, a memory, a song, how someone talks to us, how they look at us. I can tell you right now that when I was a kid growing up, my father would look, like if we did something wrong or we were in trouble, my father would just look at us and he would like peel his eyes, and he would just give us this look. And that look was like, oh, okay, I'm doing something wrong. Oh, and because I was very young, 2, 3, 4 years old, my brain just, it became part of the default network. Okay, when dad gives us this look with the eyes, that means I'm in trouble and I better stop doing what I'm doing. But that can translate into other things too. So even as an adult now, that part of my default network is still there, and it's still quite strong. And if someone were to look at me, a complete stranger or a friend, if somebody looked at me and peeled their eyes and looked at me the same kind of similar way my dad would look, I would get a reaction in my body. And so I just want you to know that if you're doing something, and your brain is pulling you kind of back into an old way of being, whether it's an old belief, the way that you decipher information, or someone says something to you in in a certain way, and all of a sudden you get a reaction, it could very possibly be your default network at play. So I often get asked, Paul, I've been doing brain retraining, somatics, tapping, journaling. I've been doing all these things for years. Um, and then all of a sudden I find myself back to square one. By the way, you're never back to square one. It just feels that way because maybe the symptomology that you're getting, whether it's physical or psychological, emotional, and if it comes back, it's like, oh my gosh, these are just as strong as they were when I first started doing my daily practice. Maybe they're even worse. And so this is our brain, the limbic system, pulling. It's just pulling because it's literally just going back to what it knows. It could be going back to its default network. It could be going back, like, even though maybe let's just say you have been going to laughter yoga 3 times a week. And in between laughter yoga, one of the tools that you like to use is you just like to laugh, whether by yourself, watching videos, listening to funny stuff, reading funny books, or getting on some kind of a forum or WhatsApp group or Signal group saying, hey, does anyone want to laugh with me? And then you just laugh. And you've strengthened those laughter neural pathways. They're just so strong that you find yourself laughing for no reason sometimes. But then something happens. Somebody says something to you, or somebody looks at you a certain way, or maybe you got a text message or an email that didn't have really great news, and all of a sudden you literally feel that the limbic system is pulling you into an old pattern, this old neural network that you've had for years, maybe even decades, maybe even your whole life. And so it's going to do that. I made this video because I work with a lot of people who say, I feel like a failure. I, I feel like I'm not really making real progress because every time I start to feel better or every time I start noticing improvements, boom, I get pulled back into whatever it is, whether it's symptoms, whether it's emotions, whether it's thoughts or beliefs. The brain and the rest of your body, really, your nervous system has its own memory apart from the brain. And so I don't want you to feel like a failure. You're not failing. It's honestly, it's really, really difficult to really mess this up, especially if you're being consistent, especially if you are doing something each day to communicate back to your brain, your nervous system, that, hey, I am okay, I am safe, I am loved, I'm okay. Regardless of what's going on in our lives, we're okay, brain. You literally don't have to work this hard to keep me safe. Which, by the way, even after all these years of neural brain retraining, I still talk to my brain this way. In fact, I talk to my brain a lot. I'll make a separate video on that because I'm a big believer in how you talk to yourself, not just how you think to yourself, but how you talk to yourself, either silently or out loud. um, it can be very supportive in your kind of daily and weekly practice. So this is a reminder to myself, make that video, Paul. So going back to the pull of the limbic system, I also wanted to make this video because there are just certain things, like, for example, somebody will be doing brain retraining, somatics, or a bunch of different tools. They'll work with maybe, let's just say, a therapist and a life coach, and then a chronic illness recovery coach. And they're, they seem to be doing well. They seem to be making progress. But then it's like you're taking one step forward and 2 steps back. And it's like I am making progress, but then I feel like I lose that progress. Remember, the brain has this default network, and it's going to continue pulling. It's going to continue pulling you back to that default network until it feels safe enough that it doesn't need to do that anymore. So how do you cultivate this? How do you strengthen this? First of all, The one thing that I'm a real big believer in is consistency. Consistency is magic. Now, when I say consistency, I mean consistency without perfection. Because one of the things that when the brain is kind of stuck in this survival mode, one thing it's really good at is looking for things that aren't going well. It will even make stuff up like, oh, this isn't going well. Like, I wasn't even thinking about that. Why are you bringing that up? And so there's also this sense of urgency from the brain, like, hey, we need to feel better. We need to recover. We need to, like, this is taking too long. By the way, all those things are valid. I'm not saying they're not, but but consistency literally is magic. So what do I mean by consistency without perfection? I just mean doing something every day that communicates back to your body, not just your brain, but to your body, hey, we're okay. I am safe. And also remembering that when the limbic system is going to try and pull you back to your default network, it's going to try and pull you back into these neural pathways that it really thinks you need. I know that even after brain retraining and doing somatics after all these years, my limbic system likes to pull me back into old ways of thinking, old ways of behaving, old ways of doing, and of course, it will bring up some old symptoms. And I used to be afraid of symptoms. I used to thought they were the worst things. And I'm going to make, of course, a separate video that goes into more details on what symptoms are. I really do believe symptoms are messages. And on the surface, they may appear false, but what is it really that our body is trying to communicate with us? So I see these symptoms as messages. It's our body really saying, hey, you're not good at setting boundaries, or hey, you really should like stop putting other people's needs ahead of your own, or hey, you're not speaking your truth because you're afraid to maybe upset somebody, or you're afraid of somebody not talking to you. And so sometimes our own body will protect us in ways that science is just barely beginning to understand. And so these are topics that I really want to go deeper in, where I can't really cover it in a 12 to 20-minute video. I do want to go deeper on these topics. So just remember, you're not failing. If you're being consistent, if you're doing something every day where you're just either communicating to your brain, hey, we're okay. For some people, that's distraction. For some people, it's really just tuning into your own body and just listening to what your body's trying to tell you. Like, what is the symptom trying to tell you? And you may get an answer, and then you may not get an answer. And being okay with not getting an answer really is you're retraining your own brain and your own nervous system that, hey, we don't have to get an answer right now in this moment. The reason why I feel that is really important is because our subconscious mind, it's really, really powerful. Like the things that it does, it just amazes me. And science is just barely scratching the surface of what our own brain can do. And one of those things is that our subconscious mind can be very, very protective of us. So if it doesn't feel safe enough to reveal something, it won't. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, no matter how much journaling you do, or when it's ready. And so one of the things that I believe that it's very important to just realize kind of in the back of your mind that no matter what you do, no matter what tool you're using, the pull of the limbic system, it's going to show up. That's normal. It's expected. I would actually feel strange. I would actually be kind of like, whoa, that's strange. If someone came to me and says, hey, I've been training for all this time and for years or months, and nope, I have never been pulled back into my old ways of being. It's been all linear. I've been making progress and progress. I've been rewiring and it's all perfect. If I ever heard that, I would be like, that would be the first, because I've worked with hundreds of people so far, and no one's ever told me that. It's always been like, hey, I'm doing this, and all of a sudden I'm being pulled back into this old symptom or this old whatever. So just remember, you're not failing. You are not failing. Your limbic system is going to pull you into the default network. It's going to pull you into those old neural pathways. And so what do? In those moments, I make a choice, and there's many choices, but there's really two, not four, but there's really two that I think I go, okay, my brain, my nervous system doesn't feel safe, so I'm going to do a little bit of distraction. I'm going to go for a walk and really look at these trees, like this beautiful tree behind me. I'm going to look at the tree and listen to the birds. I'm going to go inside the house and listen to a speech, a 20-minute TED Talk that really is positive and uplifting. Choice number two is, I'm going to sit with this. I'm not going to judge it. If you're not familiar with somatic tracking, just go on YouTube, type in somatic tracking, listen to maybe a couple from different people, and see if you like it. Because what I really like about somatic tracking and all its different variations and forms that has come in is what you're doing is you're sitting with the sensation, emotion, or thought. You're just sitting with it, and you are watching it. You're observing it, and you're practicing. You're practicing not telling stories about what that symptom means, whether it's physical, mental, psychological, emotional, whatever it is. You're sitting with it, and it can be very uncomfortable. And I would say don't do that if your symptoms are really, really intense. This is more for when they're kind of in the mid-range. But learning to sit with sensations, thoughts, and emotions, and just sitting with them and not attaching any stories to them and just sitting there. That's it. That's all you're doing for just a few minutes, because that lets the brain know, oh, these symptoms aren't really that important and they're not dangerous, and that I can sit with them. So I'll just leave it there. Just remember, you're not failing. If you're doing something every day, whatever tool it is, and you're using that tool from a place of love, and you're using it from I'm doing this to communicate back to my body that we are in fact okay. Because how we use our tools is incredibly important. And again, I'm not pointing fingers here, because I used to do this where I don't know for how many years, but I used my tools from a place of fear, from a place of I need to fix myself. My body feels broken. And I had every right to think that way. Everyone has a right to think that. It's logical. It's very reasonable to think when you're not feeling well. I mean, really not feeling well. I'm putting that mildly. You're going to think, oh my goodness, my body's broken. And so your body's not broken. It's just stuck in the state of survival, and you're trying to communicate back to it that, hey, we're okay. And so when the limbic system pulls like this, just you can sit with it, or you can use a tool and just communicate back to your own brain, your own body that, hey, we're okay, even though you may not feel okay. And this is one of the strongest ways to send a signal of safety back to your body. When you're feeling really bad, something as simple as just rubbing your arms, rubbing your shoulders, squeezing your fingers like this, squeezing your arms gently, patting on your body gently, breathing in deeply through your nose, exhale through your mouth to your comfort level. Those kind of things can communicate back to your body that, hey, I'm okay. I hope you found that helpful. And if you did, if you want to support my channel, just subscribe to my channel. If you want to get alerts, you can certainly turn the bell on so you don't miss any of the videos when I release them. But hope you found this video helpful, because it's one of the fundamentals, and it's something that I still practice to this day, where like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on right now? Oh, it's my limbic system. It's pulling me back into my default network, these old neural pathways. And I'm just going to let my brain know, I know what you're doing. I see that you're pulling me. It's okay. As the parent and leader of this relationship, I'm going to guide you into a different pathway so we can change our default network, because your default network can change.